Good evening, everyone. We're here tonight to meet on August 19th at 7:37 of the Beaver Dam's Common Council meeting. So we'll start out with the roll call, please.
Anderson,
Here.
Appenfeld,
Here.
Burnett, Marie,
Here.
Fisher,
Here.
Kylie,
Here.
Keel,
Here.
Mark,
Here.
Olson,
Present.
Perkins,
Here.
Wild,
Here.
Yuds,
Here.
Zap.
Here. And Alder Burnett has asked to be excused. He's out of town. Please stand and I'll lead in the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent deliberation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time, we'll have an informal public hearing, which means this is a time when anyone in the public, either online or in person, can step forward and talk about any issue that's not on the agenda for this evening. Is there anyone that would like to address the council? Anyone that would like to address the council with any information that's not on the agenda for tonight? And one more time, anyone that's in person or online that would like to address the council? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and we'll go to announcements. I have a couple. If you're involved with the Beaver Dam Lake Improvement Association, just a reminder, the annual meeting is Saturday at 8:30 over in Randolph. Also the pickleball courts, coming together very well. A lot of people playing on them this weekend, I noticed. They have a grand opening Wednesday, the 28th at 6 p.m. Does anyone else have any announcements? Alder Mark.
This is the third year that the Beaver Dam branch of AAUW has sponsored a community book read in conjunction with the Beaver Dam Community Library. And so all summer, we've been encouraging people to read our selection for this year. The title of the book is Milked. It's about the Midwest dairy industry, and it was written by an author from Madison. And for the third year, we're having an event in September for the community to get together and talk about the community book that we have read. And so on September 18th, Ruth Conniff, who's the author of the book, will be here at the Beaver Dam Area Community Theater in the main auditorium at 7 o'clock. And she'll speak for about half an hour, 45 minutes. And then we have a panel of local farmers and people who are active in the agricultural community, just to talk about the issues that the book raises. So we just want to invite everyone, and since we're not going to be here for Labor Day, I thought I'd get it in now. So if you have any questions, just let me know. And it's a very, it's not a long book and it's very engaging. So you don't have to read the book at all to attend the event, but if you're interested, the library has lots of copies. And I actually have a couple copies that you're welcome to, and you'd have plenty of time to read it between now and September 18th. So I encourage you to join us. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Yes.
Reminder about the Pepperfest coming up. Labor Day weekend, I believe. Is that downtown?
I'm not sure when it is.
It's the second, it's the second Saturday.
There we go.
Okay, Pepperfest, September 14th. Thank you.
The Chamber of Commerce is doing their annual corn roast also on Wednesday, August 28th. Tickets are still available. The time is from 5 to 8 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements? Okay, seeing none, we'll go forward into disposition of minutes for the council meeting that was held on August 5th, 2024. Is there any additions or corrections? Anybody have any comments in regard to the minutes? Alder Burnett,
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
thank you. Is there a second to that motion? Alder Mark?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Hearing none, that's motion passes. So we'll go into presentations and reports. City Administrator report.
Just a couple of things. One, wanted to make you all aware, the League of Municipalities, their fall conference, October 23rd and 25th is posted. If there is interest in participating in that, just let me know. We can help coordinate your attendance. All are welcome to attend. And then as far as meeting schedules, it was previously mentioned that clearly Labor Day week, or Labor Day, the first Monday of this month or September, we will not be having a meeting. However, we will need to potentially act on some business. And so it will require us to meet on the 9th. Potentially, if that changes, we'll let you know, but please plan on the 9th. It can be it will just be a council meeting. And then we are originally planning on having a budget workshop on September 9th. Because of this, we'll push that budget workshop till September 30th, which is the 5th Monday of the month. So make those tentative plans. And then we'll have our normal scheduled meeting on the 16th. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Clerk Farren, is there any communications tonight?
I have no communications.
Okay, and the only letter we did receive, you all received a copy of, so we don't need to read through it, but just wanted to remind you, the Chamber of Commerce had sent a letter just reminding us to be diligent in trying to add housing to the community, and I think this group's been doing a good job of that. Okay, moving on to resolutions.
Resolution number 68 2024, a resolution awarding the contract for the 2024 street maintenance program.
Okay, we have resolution on the floor. Is there a motion to accept? Alder Zopp,
Make a motion to approve.
okay, and looking for a second. Alder Perkin,
Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there some discussion on this?
I'll just note that this resolution and the next 5 thereafter, we did have good discussions in the operations committee. If anybody wants to know more, we're happy to provide details, but everything generally passed after discussion. So thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on resolution 68? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Anderson,
Aye.
Appenfelt,
Aye.
Burnett,
Aye.
Barry,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Hiley,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Perkins,
Aye.
Wild. Aye. Yads,
Aye.
Zap.
Aye.
Okay, unanimously passes. We move on to number 69.
Resolution number 69 2024, a resolution awarding the contract for the Pearl Street Regional Stormwater Management Pond Project.
Okay, you have a resolution in front of you. Alder Olson.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second to that motion? Alder Hiley, thank you for a second. Any discussion on this resolution? Okay, seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Appenfelt.
Aye.
Burnett,
Aye.
Barry.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Hiley,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Perkins,
Aye.
Wild. Aye. Yads,
Aye.
Zap,
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Okay, resolution 69, 2024 is approved. Move on to resolution 70.
Resolution number 70 2024, a resolution authorizing amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement for the Madison Street, Chatham Street to Rowell Street reconstruction project.
Okay, we have a resolution on the floor. Is there a motion? Alder Yuds? Okay, and a second by Alder Wild. Is there any discussion? Go ahead, Alder Zop.
Just to point out this, we did discuss this in a little bit more detail. Just to be aware that this was to kind of provide extra engineering costs for things involving temporary right-of-way acquisitions. So while we're not widening the road, we need a little bit of extra space to do sidewalk removal and sidewalk installation. But the right-of-way is not generally changing. It's just temporary to do that construction work. I get a lot of questions about this one just in general, like when is Madison Street happening? Right? So we're in, I think, year 2 of design, and design goes for 3 years. So construction is slotted to start in 2026, is that? Okay. So just basic background information, Alder information, and the majority of what we talked about was regarding those temporary easements. So.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Burnett,
Aye.
Marie,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Hiley,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Perkins,
Aye.
Wild. Aye. Yuds,
Aye.
Zop,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
Appenfeld.
Aye.
Okay, we approved Resolution 70-2024. We move on now to Resolution 71.
Resolution number 71-2024, a resolution authorizing amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement for the Rotary Park and South Tower parking lot improvements Phase 2 project.
Thank you. And do we have a motion in this resolution?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, motion by Alder Hiley and second by Alder Furry. Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, we'll call the roll.
Marie,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Hiley,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Perkins,
Aye.
Wild. Aye. Yuds,
Aye.
Zop,
Aye.
Anderson,
No.
Appenfeld,
Aye.
Burnett.
Aye.
Okay, Resolution 71-2024 passes. We'll move on to Resolution 72.
Resolution number 72-2024, a resolution approving the adjusted urban area boundary for the city of Beaver Dam.
Okay, Resolution 72 is in front of you. Is there a motion in regard to this resolution? Alder Perkins
I make a motion.
and second by Alder Yuds. And discussion. Go ahead, Alder Zop.
This came up, just a basic definition. Urban area boundary is not the city's municipal boundary. This is a boundary used by Wisconsin Department of Transportation to sort of determine what pot of money to fund road projects in or out, right? So if you're not inside the urban area boundary, you're in the rural pot of money. And this boundary that we're redrawing assumes that there's some growth in the next 10 years. So these happen every 10 years. This will be the map for the next 10 years to help allocate funding between urban areas and rural areas. So that's the map we're approving tonight.
Okay, thank you for that description. Any comments, questions? Okay, seeing none, please call the roll.
Fisher.
Aye.
Hiley,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Perkins,
Aye.
Wild. Aye. Yuds,
Aye.
Zop,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
Appenfeld,
Aye.
Burnett,
Aye.
Marie.
Aye.
Okay, Resolution 72-2024 passes. And we'll move on to Resolution 73.
Resolution number 73-2024, a resolution approving an easement agreement between the city of Beaver Dam and Generac Power Systems, Inc.
Okay, I have Resolution 73 in front of you. Alder Fisher. All right, thank you. And a second. Alder Olson. We have a second and a motion. So any discussion? Yes, Alder Wild.
Since I'm new and don't know about this, what will this entail?
Go right ahead, Attorney.
This is a set of easements that were anticipated, or at least most of them were anticipated as part of the approval of that Generac project for conveyance of stormwater. These are easements on city property, which is why the city's conveying them through this mechanism. For stormwater conveyance, both overland and underground pipe stormwater, and also sanitary sewer to get from their property to the main, and telecommunications and electric service.
Okay, any other questions? Clerk Farren, please call the roll.
Hiley,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Perkins,
Aye.
Wild,
Aye.
Yuds,
Aye.
Zap,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
Appenfelt,
Aye.
Burnett,
Aye.
Paris,
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Motion carries. Resolution 73-2024 is in the books. So then we move on to continuation of discussion and possible action with ordinance number 6-2024.
Ordinance number 6-2024, an ordinance repealing certain charter ordinances, replacing repealed charter ordinances with amended general ordinances, creating a City of Beaver Dam Executive Committee, and modifying city ordinances relating to the role of the city administrator.
Okay, being this is a second reading, we'll open a public hearing. Oh,
Second reading was May 6th.
hey, being this is the sixth reading, no, it's not quite that many. We don't need a public hearing then. So we'll move into the language. You want to lead that?
Yep.
All right, thank you.
All right, we're gonna pick right up where we left off. Except that if you'll notice on page 50 of your packet and on page 51, sorry, 50 and 51, there's some blue highlighted text. Those are the changes that were made to the ordinance as it was proposed coming out of committee that were based on the discussions that you've had since May 6th. The first being the list of officers to whom the city administrator has to get council approval for hiring and termination decisions, and the second being some changes to the way that the executive committee would relate and communicate with the council. So you can look at those at your leisure. And what I'll do is if there's more changes, and if for some reason we don't get done with this tonight, which I anticipate we will, but if we don't and we bring any other changes, I'll continue this with highlighting it in blue so you can see what was changed. So the next section, we were doing it topically, but then we started moving down this in just order of in the ordinance. The next section is the city administrator section in section 2-401 that starts at the bottom of your packet on page 51. Originally this 2-401 section, or currently this 2-401 section is related to the process for making certain hiring decisions, which would be obsolete under this ordinance. That's why we're just using the number that was already there because we're removing what was there before. But you'll see on page 52 and extending down to actually just page 52. That's what we're on right now, 2-401. We're ready for discussion.
Okay, I just want to comment that initially when this was at the administrative committee, the administrative committee recommended and voted to ask for 2/3 vote of the seated members. That's why you see this in front of you now. So open to any discussion or comments on this entire section. Alder Yuds?
2/3. We don't elect US presidents at 2/3. We elect them at 50% plus one. Why does the city administrator get 66%? This is just a little out of the package here. Most people are so valuable, you wouldn't even worry about getting to 50%. I don't understand why we need 2/3 of the city council for this position.
Okay, and I do just want to add,
Just to be clear, what we're talking about is the section A appointment at the beginning of this new section, which would require a 2/3 vote of seated members to remove the city administrator. And by seated members, it means, you know, even though there's only 13 of you here today, it would require a 2/3 vote of 14 to do that. So it's not based on the quorum, it's seated members. Before our new alder joined, it would have been 2/3 of 13. Okay?
okay. And just to remind you a little bit, the math, simple majority, of course, of the 14 would be 8, 2/3 would be 10, where 3/4 was 11. Yes, Alder Anderson?
But this reads that the city administrator shall be appointed by the mayor, subject to confirmation. So this is both hiring and firing the city administrator at this 2/3. Is that correct?
No, the hiring would just be based on a majority vote of the council. The removal would be 2/3.
I see what you're saying. The language is talking about an appointment versus a removal.
I mean, do we need to separate that out? Cause I'd like to see it flip-flopped personally. I would like to see them approved by 2/3 and removal by majority. I guess where does it lay out that they are appointed by simple majority? I guess the wording's just confusing, having it start with appointment,
Yeah,
and
and
then you're talking about they're appointed.
so the mayor
Subject
does
to-
appoint the city administrator, subject to then confirmation of the council.
Yeah, I think the language could definitely be clear regardless of what you decide to do with this. I think it's a good point. It's a perspective that I hadn't seen.
And so the appointment is by a simple majority.
That's the intent, yes.
Alder Fisher?
I wanted to ask Alderman Anderson if that was a motion or just a thought.
It was just thought for now, but
Thank you.
Alder Zopp?
I could see the need for clarification. It's better to get it clarified now than deal with it in the future. I'm more of the confirmation is 50%. So I would make a motion to amend, what was it, subsection A, to say confirmation by 50% of the common council.
By majority.
Majority, 51, yeah, subject, so majority would be more appropriate, say confirmation by majority, simple majority.
I think if you just make a motion to clarify it, I'll fix it because I gotta look and see if it's a seated members versus present members, majority of a quorum.
Okay.
But that's the idea, is that it would be the majority of a quorum,
Okay.
right?
So I will make a motion that we clarify that at a simple majority.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Alder Oppenfeld. Any other discussion on just the really amendment? Clarifying that it would take a simple majority to appoint and elect to hire basically the city administrator. Alder Anderson?
I guess there's two questions. There's that, but then you also brought in, now you're saying we have to clarify between seated and quorum. And originally you said seated, and then you said, no, the intent is the quorum. So
The intent
I
of
think we
the,
need to,
yeah,
lay out the exact wording
yeah,
and everything before you make your motion, Zach.
I directed Attorney kind of back to
So to be clear, what the way I understand this motion is for confirmation, it's a majority of a quorum, like a normal vote. And for removal, it's 2/3 of seated members.
Alder Olson,
I guess personally, I'd like to see the majority of the seated members. I'd like to see 8 yeses to get them in and then 10 noes to get them out personally. It's not how many people are here. I wouldn't, I don't want to see the number of people here. So if there was only 12 of us here, it would take 7 to be approved. I want it to be a hard 8. So it's seated members, so it's gotta be a hard 8.
so you prefer seated on both ends?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
I'm saying, yes, exactly.
Is this more of a, we're not sure legally, Attorney Konopacki, or
No.
we could amend
Yeah.
the motion just to straight line everything seated? So I would be willing to amend the motion to say confirmation by a simple majority of seated members.
That would clarify.
Yes, and then that would be legally okay?
Are you okay with the second? Okay. Okay, any other discussion on the motion to make it a seated majority? Yes, Mr. Anderson.
I just see an issue keeping it with the 2/3 removal. You can have a situation where the city administrator, that right now we have 14. So the removal, there's been situations, I don't want to say anything bad about the current one, but there has been situations where actions needed to be taken and they haven't been. And I don't see, like, you're gonna get, it's just too many people for removal. I just don't agree with that at all.
So
But
not
that's
to-
fine.
Point of order, though,
Go
the
ahead.
amendment is for just on confirmation. I mean, there'd be time to discuss the removal later, but if we could
That's a good way to do it.
move the discussion on
Okay.
appointment first.
Any other discussion on the first part of that paragraph or sentence that talks about just the appointment? And we'll talk about the removal portion secondly. And we'll take a vote.
Anderson,
Aye.
Appenfelt,
Aye.
Burnett,
Aye.
Marie,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Hiley. Aye. Keel,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Perkins,
Aye.
Wild,
Aye.
Yautz,
Aye.
Zap.
Aye.
Okay, so that covers the appointment portion. So now is there any discussion about the percentage of 2/3 that the admin committee had originally voted on for removal of a city administrator? Alder Yuds?
Everyone in this room was elected with a simple majority. Why does the administrator have special rights over every one of us? It should be a simple majority vote. Who gets elected to office without a simple majority vote? You should be so valuable, that vote should never come up. So there's issues if there it comes up. We gotta deal with it.
Alder Mark?
Except the point is that there's a difference between elected officials, who we all are, and a hired professional, which is the city administrator. And the idea is that you have a long and vetted process for choosing this person. They're a professional, they're the chief executive of the city. The city and its staff deserves a certain degree of predictability and stability, and therefore it should be relatively difficult to just dismiss someone, especially someone who has so much responsibility and is such a key player in government. So the city administrator is not an elected official. So the idea of a simple majority just doesn't apply here. I feel.
Alder Fisher?
I would disagree with everything that Bobby Marks just said. To me, the question is quite simple. Should the people's representatives, which we are, give special preference to one city employee over the others? When it comes to the alderpersons, you are correct that we were voted in by a simple majority. If we approved 2/3, and once we were voted in, we became city employees. The question then is, can we be removed from city employment by 50% of the vote in our ward at the next election? The answer to that is yes. If we approve the 2/3 vote for the city administrator, all city employees, which the city administrator is an employee, must be removed by a 2/3 vote. Should I decide to run again for re-election this November, any challenger must receive 2/3 of the vote to remove me. We have two candidates that are running for mayor in this council, and I am going to be watching very closely on how they vote on this issue. I hope everybody else does too.
Mick, I just wanted one clarification. You said for someone to beat you out in an election, they'd have to have 2/3?
Well, I'm a city employee, and if I'm going to be voted out of office, they'd have to get 2/3 of the vote, wouldn't they?
No, it's just
Well,
popular vote.
To be fair, I think that's the way it should be. How about all the other city employees here? How about the fact that not long ago, we had a city administrator, financial coordinator, or whatever the title may be, that cost the city $300,000. I would think a simple majority would be in line there. Why would we give a city employee special preference over the other city employees is my point. And I'd really like somebody to answer that. And it can't be because he's a highly skilled professional with a MBA after his name or has special credentials. Because there are a lot of city employees that have bachelor degrees. If you get onto the police force, certainly. I realize that's union, but certainly they have higher restrictions on their hiring and their firing. I just don't see where you could possibly take a certain segment of this in a certain department and say, okay, unless you really screw up. And how about if that administrator, whoever it may be, has some friends on the council? How's he ever going to hit the 10 votes? Let's say he has 5 friends on the council. The simple majority is the way to go on here. I consider this after 14 years to be one of the most important decisions that I'll have to make. Because once we go ahead with this and go to 2/3, it's going to be very difficult to get a city administrator out of here. And I don't think we want to go there.
Okay, thanks for your opinion. I'm going to let Nathan comment just on city administrators in general.
Yeah, I want to be very clear in this comment because Mick had asked for an explanation. And I don't want you to take this as coming from me. Pretend that I'm leaving tomorrow and it's the next administrator, right? Or pretend 5 years from now, administrators that you're going to hire. Mick, you had made the comment about the idea of what if the administrator makes a bunch of friends? What I would suggest is that the way you framed this is to prevent that. What you don't want is you don't want an administrator who's playing politics or who is trying to buddy and save their job by getting a simple majority. You want someone who's going to stand ethically, and sometimes that may not be popular. It may not be popular to make an ethical decision. And so if you're wanting to have a professional and you're wanting the individual to give professional advice solely on professional advice, that is the intent by having kind of the higher standard. The individual that lost the city $300,000, I have a question. Did they, and I don't know the answer to this, was it just on a simple majority vote that they lost their job, or was it pretty cut and dry across the council? Generally speaking, your preference is to have a unanimous vote. If the guy is a bum or the gal is a bum, you want a unanimous vote. That's the cleanest, most efficient way to solve your problem. It shows that this wasn't just a political decision. This was a decision that was best for the community as a whole. Some communities set it as high as 3/4. I think that the committee had reviewed this and decided 2/3. My comment is that from an aspect of trying to recruit future professionals, and also from an aspect of trying to prevent it just being a political, let's just get a simple majority, it's best to have a little bit of a higher threshold. And that's all I'll say. Good, bad, or indifferent, I don't have a vote on this, but I do want it to be understood why. You had asked why, and so that's generally the thought process, the rationale for having a higher threshold, so that you don't have an administrator who's simply interested in politics or judging the room and basing the professional opinion on, well, what's the majority going to vote for? You want the professional opinion to give you what the general professional opinion is. And if the simple majority vote against it, well, that's okay. So anyway.
Thank you. Alder Zopp.
So just to kind of, I'm worried that if this becomes 50-50, we head down a road where political decisions will be made about the administrator. And it's not because we're removing that person because of cause. It's because of political motivations. They don't like that person. And they got enough political support to get them out, not for cause, but for political reasons. And this has happened in Wisconsin. This happened in the town of Grand Chute. The town board president was covering up misdoings. Simple majority to get rid of the town administrator, he's gone, right? It happened in Pleasant Prairie, right? To cover up things, not because somebody was removed for cause, but because the administrator did their job and stood up against the political motivations to cover up misdoings. And that's what this position has to deal with. This person has to be shielded from political misdoings, and it happens. I just named 2, and these are recent examples. There's going to be more. This position should be shielded from our collective political motivations, right? They need to be insulated. It helps our reputation to attract better employee if they know that they're not going to be subject to political misgivings or political wins, right? That we can attract a higher level candidate to come here because they know they can feel a sense of they don't have to worry about political motivations, right? They know that if they screw up, they're gone. And we should hold them accountable if they screw up. They should be gone. But we shouldn't be able to just willy-nilly we decided that they're not taking the city in the right direction, so they're gone. That's not, then we go down the road of, it was $300,000 for the temp. We paid a bucket load of money for a temporary city administrator. We also paid a bucket load of money to have the HR person come in. And it's a pretty fast sliding scale on the candidate pool. If you recall, we took 2 rounds to hire somebody because the first round didn't actually get us a usable candidate. I mean, maybe they're great now, but it was just, it's a lot. It's a lot for that position. It's a lot for us. We should not make these decisions on political levels. They should be insulated. So that I'd go for 3/4, but I'm willing to accept the compromise that came out of the admin committee. It was a compromise. I'll accept it, 2/3. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Alder Fisher had a hand up. Can Alder Burnett go first?
I'd prefer that,
Okay.
they go
Alder
first.
Burnett.
Yield to me. All right, I don't want a city administrator who's gonna be afraid of losing his job because you hurt somebody's feelings. And that's exactly what's gonna happen if it's 50% plus 1. He's gonna be afraid to do his job because he doesn't want to hurt somebody's feelings.
Alder Fisher.
Well, first of all, in what Nate had to say, I think he has an alternative motive. Obviously, he would like to have a vote on this because we know which way he'd vote. It's in his favor. As representatives, we are not to vote on issues that pertain to the salaries of our people. We are to vote in the interest of the citizens. And it is not in the interest of the citizens to take one position at City Hall. I don't think there's anybody else that it requires 2/3 of the city council vote for them to lose their job. And in terms of Alderman Zopp, that was purely supposition. You bringing up Pleasant Prairie and then making statements as to what is fact there is not correct. You should not, I definitely oppose that. So once again, I'm not going to say any more, but it's going to be a major mistake if we turn this to 2/3. We're starting to go down a slippery slope, and I'm going to vote no.
Okay. Alder Yutz.
Getting back to Grand Chute and Pleasant Prairie, especially Pleasant Prairie, the person who so-called calls the issues down there has gone to court and faces repercussions. So maybe the police chief should be able to do an investigation now, because that thing is over. So the keeping your mouth shut is over. We can ask questions now. What's really going on down there, for we know what we have here. If you have a professional, they should never worry about being fired. They should be such demand that you want to keep him here no matter what. Not because you got someone's buddies there.
Alder Perkins.
I have a few comments. I'm kind of torn on this one. My first thought is if you're making political decisions in this seat that you're doing, you're not doing your job. You're supposed to be bipartisan. And that's the way I try to look at this. So if you're voting politically on issues in here, you shouldn't be doing that. So shame on you if you're thinking in that aspect. Secondly, we have 14 members on council. It's a lot of people. And I find it hard to believe that we would go over that 50% without a lot of people arguing it, right? And seeing the issues we've actually had even close to that 50, that majority vote, it's very rare. So I'm okay with staying at the majority, but I understand the 2/3 vote I get where it's coming from, but it's just, if people are voting you out politically, then those older persons should have shame on that, in my opinion. So that's all I have to say.
Alder Mark?
And adding to what Alder Perkins said, one thing that I guess maybe surprised me a little when I first came to council, because I didn't have a lot of experience with council business, but what is clear to me is as a body, we vote often unanimously or just with a very small minority disagreeing, because I feel like as an organization, we have our ducks in a row. We do our homework, our committees, look into issues, people ask questions, so that by the time issues get to council, we are in agreement. We've discussed them. And I cannot imagine a situation where we have a city administrator, which is obviously a very public and very, we all have contact with the city administrator. It's a well-known position. I can't imagine a situation where they were doing a bad job and we couldn't get 10 people to get rid of them. That if they were really doing a bad job, I know 10 of us would say, yeah, he's doing a bad or she's doing a bad job. That we don't normally need a big, huge battle to make decisions, because I feel like we do a good job of discussing and coming to an agreement. So I think it's important that to shield the position from political pressures and to be able to make an ethical decision. I can think of, imagine that it's a budget cycle and we need to raise taxes. I'm just, making up an example. And as a city administrator, the ethical thing to do, the professional thing to do would be to come to this body and say, you guys have to raise taxes. But he knows that's going to be very unpopular with us and with the city, with citizens. So that person doesn't make that recommendation out of fear of losing their job by a simple majority. I think there needs to be a little bit of a shield so that that professional person can do their job even when doing their job is unpopular.
Alder Free?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Bobby and Zach and Kevin for their comments. I'm on the 2/3 vote side. I think the more this group can present that unified front and show that that's a strong decision for the group, I think we'd be in a better spot.
Alder Wild?
I'm kind of new here, but to me, this sounds like there's some pretty strong opinions going both ways, and maybe it's not ready for a vote yet.
You haven't been here long enough, lady.
I don't.
Oh, no.
What's it say? I don't know whose voice that was. Okay,
It was me.
Alder Hiley?
Thank you for bringing that up, Nancy, but we have discussed this quite a bit, and I know that feel like you're odd out, and I've been in that position. However, we have discussed this. I had the time since April to meet with every executive person within the city, as long with our city administrator. I am partial to the 2/3 as well as being part of an organization myself as president. You do not want to be conducted under a majority of the vote, because a lot of times the majority is in a favor of a certain direction. I think 2/3 does save that person from that. And if there is wrongdoing, you have no problem getting a 2/3 vote for that high level position.
Alder Anderson?
I would agree, actually, what Andrew said, that, yeah, it should not be political. We should be bipartisan. You should be working for your constituents, and leave your political leanings out of it. So I agree with him. I kind of see it, just keep it simple. If we're gonna do some majority to hire, you do some majority of seated to fire. I understand the protection thing, because you don't want it to just be on a whim that they get voted out and not voted, they get fired, because they aren't voted in, they're hired and fired. So I understand the protections. Unfortunately, I don't know how you possibly do ramifications, because we're in a position right now, and I'm sorry, Nathan, but we have had personnel complaints against him and nothing has happened. There was complaints before, it went to a committee of very few people, it was all swept under the rug. It was not told to the entire council. They just said, there's stuff he needs to work on, we let him know, he's gonna work on it. Everything's fine. That was under the previous mayor. I will throw her under the bus, that was probably her fault for doing so. And shame on the people that were a part of that committee, of which I believe there was probably maybe 2 or 3 people that were involved in that. So again, shame on you for not sharing, because if the whole council really knew what was going on, I'm sure this discussion would be going way differently. But I do understand wanting them to have protection, but then if that really goes through, then people need to separate their friendship with Nathan and the job that he's doing. You know, like, you may think he's a great guy, but you need to also listen to complaints that are coming from department heads. And you need to take them to heart, and you need to really judge, like, I think Nathan's a great guy, but you know, he's doing this stuff over here, you know, maybe I need to reconsider. So
We need to get
that's
back
fine.
to the subject.
All right,
with
so
this-
I will say simple majority, 2/3, I'm not in favor of it. Thank you.
Okay. There has to be a motion to change. At this point, we're looking at removal to be 2/3 vote. Alder Anderson,
I will make a motion to have removal be simple majority of seated.
Alder Fisher. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
And-
A vote, I just want to clarify, a vote yes means that you want simple majority. And a vote no means that you want to leave it at 2/3. Go ahead.
Anderson,
Aye.
Appenfelt,
Aye.
Burnett,
No.
Barry,
No.
Fisher.
Aye.
Hiley,
No.
Keel,
No.
Mark,
No.
Olson,
No.
Perkins,
Aye.
Wild,
Abstain.
Yads,
Aye.
Zap.
No.
It's 7-5
Yes.
and 1 abstention.
Mhm.
So the motion carries to leave the language at 2/3 for removal.
The motion failed.
I'm sorry. Yeah, motion failed.
So with that, is there anything else in section 2-401 that people would like to discuss, or? Yeah, I guess.
Alder Uppenfeld.
Okay, I would like to go under duties and responsibilities.
Okay,
And I would like to go to about halfway through that when it says including supervision of all departments.
what number would that be under?
Number 1 under B.
Okay,
Okay, what I would like to say with that is supervision of all departments and coordinate with the following departments: the Beaver Dam Area Development Corporation, the Police and Fire Department, and Inspection Services.
was that a motion?
That is a motion.
Okay, there's a motion to change the language to be more definitive. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Everybody understand the motion? Any other comments?
Yeah, why are we?
Because those are contracted departments that are oversaw by an executive committee in the case of the Beaver Dam Area Development Corporation, the Police and Fire Commission for the Police and Fire Department, and Inspection Services is also a contracted independent organization.
I'm sorry, can you just repeat what the change that you want?
I can do that for you, Kay. It's just so that I make sure that sorry, Alder Appenfeld, if, to make sure I'm gathering this correctly. So under B1, it reads, the city administrator shall be at all times responsible to the mayor and common council and shall be responsible for the efficient and effective administration of day-to-day operations and services provided by the city, including supervision of all departments. Now, at that point, the motion is to add and coordination with Beaver Dam Area Development Corporation, Police and Fire Department, and Inspection Services.
And the rest. of
Meaning
that
that the supervision would not fall under the city administrator, it would fall under those individual departments that are oversaw by other directives.
What you're understanding there? And it's just inserted, the rest of the sentence stays.
Did we have a second on that? We did.
We did, yes.
That was Jack.
Yeah.
Discussion.
Any other discussion?
Did we miss any? I mean, are there any, is that an inclusive list of departments that are contracted? I guess I'm wondering if we should,
I don't know that they're necessarily, I mean, obviously the police department is a department. It's not a question of necessarily what other things are contracted. It's more the distinction that Alder Appenfeld wants to make about that the role wouldn't be supervisory over those.
right, which I agree with. I'm wondering if it should be maybe more broad, just something like to the effect of all departments under their purview, or I don't know, because there might be other entities now or in the future that are not under their purview, if that makes sense. We know about Police and Fire Commission. But yeah, library, right? So now,
Building inspections doesn't have another supervisor per se.
right, so now we got 5. We went from 3 to 5 just in talking.
I guess what I was trying to say is that building inspection doesn't have necessarily a direct supervisor. You could also look at, assessment, service contract, our city attorney, legal service contract. It's a bit of a slippery slope. Generally speaking, most administrators understand, like PFC, that they're coordinating with PFCs with optional powers that they're coordinating. There's some times where there is supervision, especially in like emergency situations. But I don't know if it's worth quibbling.
Aldermark.
And I just wanted to ask city attorney a question that do you see this as even needed or necessary? Because just my understanding of all the organizations that Kay mentioned, that Alder Appenfeld mentioned, by definition, they have an independent board that oversees them, that they're not being currently supervised by the city administrator. And so I guess I don't understand. I don't see the need for this. I mean, we could include it because it's what happens, but I feel like it's superfluous. We don't really need it because in reality, those entities are independent and aren't currently supervised by the city administrator. They may have been by the mayor perhaps when it was a full-time mayor, but they certainly aren't now under the city administrator.
Yeah, I can agree with Nathan on this, that this is really a debate amongst you as to what you think is the most clear in terms of the direction. It's not really a question of whether it's.
I think
necessary or
it's,
Go ahead, Kay.
I think it's a clarification for someone new coming in to know that the Economic Development Corporation handles our economic development and is oversaw by their own executive committee. So that individual coming in as a city administrator doesn't think they fall under the clarification of a city department. And that's what I'm trying to clarify here for a city administrator, that they know that that is not a supervision for them to handle. That is done by their own executive board. That's an example of one of them. So if a city administrator comes in with a strong economic development background and feels that they should supervise that, they know from the language we have here that we have contracted with our own organization, which is oversaw by their own executive board, to do the economic development. That's what I'm trying to spell out for a city administrator coming in, that they don't get confused as to their role.
Alder Free.
Yeah, I just wanted to say before, she said that, I had the similar thought of getting it clarified for the future. And then maybe one for Larry, I just want to make sure that you got the library in there as well. And then can you wordsmith this, Larry, so it doesn't turn into one gigantic run-on sentence and make it maybe more confusing than it is if we just blop that all in the middle?
That's what I was wondering, could we just, somebody said not overseen by an independent body. Could we just, would you be willing to say, including supervision of all departments not overseen by an independent body? And then it's everything here, now, and in the future. That would include.
I prefer clarification.
Okay.
So, the request was to add the library to your list from Alder Furry, and I guess I'd be interested to know if that's consistent with.
Is that
the
okay with
movement
you?
And the second.
I'm okay with the library being added.
And I think Alder Yuds, were you the second?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. More discussion?
Yeah, any more discussion on this issue? Yes, Perkins.
I just want to make a comment for some of the newer people too, that a lot of this is just because we didn't do our due diligence when we hired a city administrator to have all this detailed out. So that's kind of why we're being kind of picky about it. So, and Nathan, I'm sorry, but this was something that should have been done beforehand, right? So.
Perfect world.
I'd just like to add to
Yeah,
that.
go
I
ahead.
think we need to recall that what we're doing is a city administrator position, not the person who holds it. And we need to withdraw ourselves from personal feelings and move forward with building just a city administrator,
Thank you.
period.
Okay, I don't see any other comments. So we're looking to vote on adding the extra language that Alder Oppenfeld suggested.
Anderson,
Aye.
Appenfeld,
Aye.
Burnett,
Aye.
Marie,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Hiley,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Perkins,
Aye.
Wild,
Aye.
Yuds,
Aye.
Zap.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. We'll, and you're gonna wordsmith that a bit. Is there any other discussion on page 52? I guess we're on page 52 of any other duties and responsibilities. Yes,
Okay.
Alder Oppenfeld.
In that same section, numbers 8 and 9, I would like to strike the word direct and just leave coordinate. In both, yes. Strike direct and just leave coordinate.
Was that a motion?
That is a motion.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion? Alder Anderson?
I'll second, but I think number 9 would be, you want to strike direct, but then leave oversee. Just declare.
I'm sorry, one is leave coordinate and one leaves oversee. Thank you for the correction.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay. Any other discussion?
If-
Alder's up.
If he doesn't, this person doesn't direct it, who does direct it?
it'll probably have the same effect with or without this language.
So it's basically semantics at this point.
Yeah, it's comfort with the language.
Okay, I mean, could the city interpret this differently? I mean, I see it as, why not have the extra clarity? If it has the same effect with or without, then why not leave it in? Unless somebody has a strong argument for what's different with it out, is what I'm looking to get. What's different without that word in there?
Alder Burnett?
That's what I was gonna say too. Why take it out? I have no idea why we would take it out.
Alder Uppenfeld?
It's a power word. Direct is a power word, giving that person in that position power. Direct is power. I don't believe that our department heads need to be directed in a purchasing policy or in budget policy. I think they are very capable of doing that on their own without being directed. If you want to substitute a different word, I'm okay with that, but I believe direct is too much of a power word.
So I guess I would counter that this position does have the power to do that. And if it opens up to question, well, then who has the authority and the responsibility? So in vacuums of missing responsibility leads to confusion, delays, and kerfuffles. Just there's likelihood someone's gonna F it up because they don't have that responsibility assigned to them. So I'm okay with saying like, yeah, this is that person's responsibility. They are gonna direct and coordinate this, and they're gonna direct and coordinate that. And if you don't do that, we'll hold you accountable. If we walk that back, then they can say, hey, I was just supposed to coordinate. And no, it's not on me. I was just supposed to coordinate. So I like it to hold that person accountable.
Any other comments on the motion? Okay, let's call the roll.
Anderson,
Aye. A clarification. Yeah,
Word direct and from both of those lines.
yeah, vote no is to keep it as is.
Anderson,
Aye.
Appenfelt,
Aye.
Burnett,
No,
Marie,
No.
Fisher,
All right,
Hiley,
No.
Keel,
No.
Mark,
No.
Olson,
No.
Perkins, Wild,
No.
Yuds,
Aye.
Zop.
No.
Okay, that lines 8 and 9 will stay the same as written. Are there any other comments to be made about the city administrator responsibilities and duties? Okay, if not, we'll move on. Is there any changes beyond that? I'll leave it general.
Mayor, am I assuming that you are looking for someone to call the question at this point in time?
I think that would be in order.
Okay, I will move to call the question. No? Oh,
Mm-mm.
okay, not yet.
Mayor never looks for someone.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. My apologies.
So, what he's asking is, does anybody have any other changes with section 2-401?
Oh, Alder Fisher?
we're talking about just this section we're dealing with now, but we're gonna go on to 2-402, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm talking about everything in its entirety. So, well, we're into the next one, section 2-402. Looking for any comments or changes. After that, section 2-403. Section 2-404. After that, we go into budget, section 2, section 2127, Alder Yuds.
Yes, in the budget there, I would like to see a written budget, preliminary budget before it goes to the vote, and a written budget after it goes to after it passes and when it goes to the city departments. I want to see what was in it before and what was after it, for we all know we're on the same page. What department has what money and for what things, where the money doesn't get shifted around behind our backs.
Okay, we gotta determine where that's supposed to go in the guidelines.
Well, it should, I don't know if it's hearings. Should go in the hearing, the council shall hold a public hearing and a budget is required and put a written budget there
Which paren are you on?
on page 55 D.
D, okay.
We should have a written budget there for what we see. And then after we get done voting on the final budget, we should have another written budget in our hands. Cause we didn't get one last year. And money seems to be shifting back and forth so fast. And people can't account for different things. Money's being spent what's not supposed to be spent. So we'd like to have something in hand where we know what money went where.
Alder
Can I
Burnett.
ask a clarifying question?
Yeah, please do.
For Alder Yads, do you mean section B?
I was putting D, but I was gonna move it up.
No, I'm asking you if what you mean is, do you want to see the budget submitted by the department heads? Is that what you're saying?
No. the
Okay, good.
The final budget. When it comes to the city council, we should have a written budget in front of us. And if we decide to change it any, the budget should be written down, because last meeting we had, there were $21,000 removed from legal expenses and used for the comprehensive plan. We never gave permission to move that money. So I wanna know the money. A preview of what the budget's gonna look like on paper. And then a final budget, what we passed on paper in front of us, we can hold it.
Alder Burnett.
We're talking about a charter here. Is that something that you want in the charter? That
Oh, we're holding someone responsible for the job.
policies, not charter.
Be debating. We shouldn't be talking.
Okay,
That's all I'm saying is this is a charter. I mean, going into every single tiny little policy. I mean, when you could just ask a question, you could ask him for the budget, whoever the administrator is before and after, and he'll give it to you.
We didn't get one last year. Are you still asking?
Alder Fisher.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm gonna step back to paren 1 on here. The city administrator shall review the proposed department budgets, compile and prepare proposed operating capital debt service special fund enterprise budgets. And I'd like to scratch the rest of that paragraph and put in there instead, reflect the department heads next year's budget requests. My thinking is, instead of having the city administrator come up with his budget, I would imagine, I'm guessing, that he would have contact with the department heads, and before submitting that budget, he would take into account and reflect the department heads next year's budget requests. I don't think that was let me talk for a couple seconds here. For those of you that weren't here 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we used to work on budgets in a manner that I think is much superior than the last 2 or 3 we've done. The council members would receive probably a 2-inch thick white binder. And in that binder would be simply the request of every department head for what they want for the coming year. And it would outline not only what it was for, it would outline their reasoning for wanting it, and it would present a dollar and cent figure. Now we would then schedule a budget hearing with the full council. This may go for 2, maybe 3 sessions, because we would invite all of the department heads into this budget hearing meeting. If we would take each line item by line item, and the alderpersons could ask questions on any of the requests from any of the departments. The department head would be here, and he would then be able to justify or answer questions about that request. The alderpersons at that point could vote on scratching that particular item. That hasn't happened in the last 2 or 3 years. So I would like to take section D, which Alderman Yudz was talking about, and I would like it to read, action by the Common Council. The Common Council will meet with all department heads at a council meeting of the whole to hear and possibly amend each department budget request item line by line. It's the way it was always done for the 10 years when I was here. In the last 4 years, it has not been done that way, and I think there's a lot of confusion, and I don't think anybody really finishes up the last 3 years and knows exactly what the hell we're voting on. This makes sure that we know everything. It's not micromanaging. It's doing what we're being paid to do. Fiscal management of the city of Beaver Dam.
Was that a motion, Mick?
It is.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Alder Yudz.
Can I ask another clarification?
You can clarify that,
Alder
please.
Yudz, does that overlap with what you were asking for?
Close enough, I agree with it.
Okay.
Yes, Alder.
So I've been a state employee for a long time, and this is not how the state runs. This is not how government runs. This is not how any business runs. You are asking the board of supervisors of pick a company, Walmart or Menards or the Department of Agriculture or the Department of Transportation. You are saying, you boards, go and comb through line by line the budgets of your departments. And oh, by the way, that's supposed to be the department chair or the bureau director or the city administrator or your secretary. That's supposed to be their job. You build systems of putting people that have responsibility and hold the public trust into making decisions about how to allocate funds. And then you have department heads. We have a couple here right now, and they get to, and they know what they need to do. Like, I trust Dan, I trust Todd, I trust John, I trust all of our department heads to rationalize and spend their money wisely, right? I trust them to do that. What we're being asked is to supersede them and say, John, I don't trust you, buddy. I don't think you need that money for whatever. Or I don't want to get in that position of having to second guess what a department head said their priorities are, right? That is their job to develop priorities. It's then the city administrator's job to winnow what, and we've seen this. We get ranked priorities. We get, for the past 4 years, starting back with Zach Bloom. It's gone very smooth. I've liked it. A lot of the winnowing and sieving of priorities happens before it comes to us. And then we get basically a list of high priority items that can't fit into the budget and that it's going to be up to us to filter out. I've liked this process over the past 4 years. And I don't want to go back to line item by line item, second guessing our department heads. So.
Alder Yuds.
No one questioned the department heads. We just want accountability from the top down. That's all we want. If we allot them the money, that should be their money. Nobody should be going in there taking money out behind their backs and saying, I got other purposes for this money and not telling them. That's what I'm looking out for. I'm looking out for the department heads, supervisors, and everybody else in the city, employees and everybody else. Do your homework.
Alder Burnett.
Thanks. The scenario that Mick gave us was before we had an administrator. That's the way we did it. We got the budgets. We got an administrator. We should leave him do his job. That's what an administrator is supposed to do, is come up with a budget. That's his main priority. At the county level, we have a county administrator. He gives us the budget. We go through it, take out stuff, put stuff in it, but he's the one that does the budget. So I think that that's the way it should be done.
Alder Mark.
And just a question, I'm assuming that when the city administrator creates their budget, it's with close coordination with department heads. It's not done independent of department heads. It's done in coordinate, correct?
Yeah, so a point of clarification, generally speaking, Kayla and I are meeting with department heads, reviewing their budgets. The salaries and benefits, we'll have them give us a general overview of what they're thinking or what they're estimating. But at the end of the day, a lot of that is controlled by payroll. And honestly, Kayla has a better understanding of what the numbers are going to be. And so that's one area that I don't want to assume what Jack was alluding to, but where if there are adjustments made, sometimes they're on the salary side of things. And at the end of the day, we're going to be paying for the employees that work for us, right? So our intent is the budget is a guideline. It's meant to provide us an understanding of what we're going to spend for the next year. There will be some things that we're going to underspend. There are going to be some things that will be overspent. But at the end of the day, if we're going to overspend, we're coming to you, especially if it's within the bottom line, right? If everything works out, and that's policy discussions, right? More than something that I would say putting in your ordinance. Just one other point. I don't have two. I just have one other point. When the public hearing takes place, you are given, it's in the packet. The budget is given, line item is given to everyone. It's even available to the public, right? And then also, if there's any question, you can go onto the website right now today, and you can look at our budget. So there's nothing hidden. The idea is to be transparent, and that's key. From my position, I want to keep my position, and I feel that's like the ethical thing, like that's a necessary thing to do. So, yeah.
Alder Anderson.
I do think the budget stuff does go a little bit quicker now the last couple of years. I understand what Mick was saying, because yes, we used to get everything printed out it's still there. You have to look through it page by page on your computer. So I guess it's still there, and I guess what newer people aren't used to is it used to be we would be presented a budget and we would have to cut stuff because we didn't want to raise taxes left and right. Now, the last couple of years, apparently the majority on this council has no problem raising taxes as much as possible. And as Zach said, second guessing the department head. No, it's when you put together a budget, you ask for everything and knowing some stuff's going to be taken out of there. So when they ask for everything and then the council decides, we'll just give you everything because we trust your judgment. It's like a heyday. If we have to raise taxes on the citizens, who cares? Because we're just going to do it because that's what they recommended. So that's why we went through line item by line item, and I think part of that is handled now with the ranking, so that hopefully one of these years we can come to a point where, hey, maybe we can reduce spending a little bit and maybe we don't have to do all this stuff that really doesn't need to be done to save on, the taxpayers, so their property taxes don't go through the roof. It's a hope and a dream that I will always have that will probably never happen now, but I hope for that every year. So I don't know. I don't know if the wording necessarily covers it. And I know what Jack's trying to say. He wants a full documented budget, I guess. I mean, you could say in writing, but it needs to be a document which we get. But then I think he's at, like, if there's any amendments to that during our discussions, that he wants a fully updated one. And I'm pretty sure we do that already, but I don't know how to word that in there.
Can I clarify since I was mentioned?
Sure, Alder's up.
So, Alder Anderson, I don't want to give every department heads a windfall free for all. A budget is set. Department heads work within that budget. They set the priorities for that budget. If they feel that that's the best way to spend their money within that budget, who are we to second guess, right? Certainly there's things that aren't going to fit in there because they have a budget and they should not be going over that budget. If they need to go over that budget to buy a $2.5 million ladder truck, they will come to us and we will work it out on whether or not we can fit a $2.5 million budget fire truck into the budget, which that was an expensive purchase, right? We needed it. But generally that is the trust that I'm talking about. A budget is set. The department has work within it. They know the priorities the best. It gets really ugly if we're going to try and jump in there and set priorities for them. I don't want to be doing that. If they need something that is really expensive and it'll go on to the capital improvement plan, we'll work it out. Those big ticket individual items, right? We'll work that out separately in the CIP. But again, that's hopefully that clarifies my position with how I envision the budget process and have perceived our efficient budget process in the past 4 years since we've migrated.
Alder Fisher.
I know you're sick and tired of hearing me tell you about how long I've been here and what's going on in the past. But there is one thing that has happened in the past that we have got to look at. And we've got to change. We were $10 million in debt 10 years ago, and we're going on 50 million in debt today. Now I am a fiscal conservative. And I voted against, along with two other alderpersons here that are conservative. But the bottom line is, you can borrow this money until you're blue in the face and you can hold taxes down and you can All the citizens are gonna think we're great because we haven't raised taxes. But nobody ever looks at the debt. How in hell are we gonna pay up $50 million and keep spending the way we have? Somebody, if there's anybody here that could answer me that.
But not tonight, because that's a little bit off track. Do we, yeah, go ahead,
Can we clarify the motion? Because I feel like it's almost two separate things between what.
Yeah, there wasn't a motion made by Alder
There was
Yachts.
just one motion made
Motion,
by Fisher, but we're kind of merging the ideas apparently.
yes. Do you want a clarification of that motion?
Please.
So that's under section D. I gotta get the heading. Give me a second here. Okay, section 2-127 D, and that is titled,
What page is that?
I don't know, I don't have my mouse, so it's not
Okay.
moving very fast.
All right.
No, and that's why we've got to clarify what was
Okay.
asked for here.
So 127 starts on page 53. And then if,
It's crossed out 3 and then D. An itemization of all anticipated income of the city from sources. Is that what you're looking at?
I didn't hear you actually.
are you
Sorry,
on
Andrew.
D or B as in?
There's a number of Ds, so.
Okay.
Action-
I was pretty I think, and Alderperson Fisher, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Under section 2-127, parent B, submission of department budgets, department heads shall submit their budgets, operating and capital, but that was where he wanted the submission of
Yeah.
a line by line.
That's what I thought too. I think the issue is, Mick, Alder Fisher, you and I are looking at the sheet that you filled out.
Right.
Yeah, so that's actually, for everyone, it's actually E. It's towards the top of page 55.
See,
At E as in every.
Oh,
Action
action
by
by
the common council. The proposal is to say, to strike the words subsequent through the end of that and have it instead read, the common council will meet with all department heads at a council meeting of the whole to hear and possibly amend each department budget request line item by line item under that action paragraph.
okay.
So just one point of clarification though, legally, there's a necessity of order for the hearing, like there needs to be a public hearing. And approval after the hearing. So I think the intent, we understand the intent of Alderperson Fisher, but I don't know that we can,
You're saying
It-
it'll be before the.
this should happen before the hearing.
Alder Fisher?
Yeah, it was D at one point in the previous, it's not under the ordinance that's in, yeah. And so that's the motion and I think both the people are correct here that we think what you mean is you want to have this happen before the hearing. Okay,
I don't know what parent it would be, but subsequent to the public hearing on the proposed budget, the common council will meet to possibly amend the final requested budget before the adoption. Budget may be adopted by a simple majority of common council. If you want to incorporate that in after my motion, or if you want a separate motion, let me know.
That could be in.
that's already an E. So the way E reads under the ordinance as it's written right now, it says it's in front of the council. E is action by the common council. The common council subsequent to the public hearing on the proposed budget shall consider adoption of the proposed budget and may amend the budget following the hearing and before adoption by the common council. So that's already there. I think to clarify though, Alder Fisher just said that, yes, he's looking for this other motion he made to occur prior to the hearing, which to Nathan's point would be in or near section B.
So can we replace section C, which was totally stricken?
We already have a C. C's right there.
Well, not right in front of the hearing. The hearing is B.
The preparation of the proposed budget is C.
So right now, under B on page 54, it reads submission of department budgets. Department heads shall submit their department operating and capital budgets to the city administrator for review in accordance with the established schedule. Is that where you'd like to have a meeting of the council as a whole to review those department head budgets? That's similar to what's in our existing ordinance when we didn't have the system.
Just rather it off here, the common council will meet with all department heads at a council meeting of the whole to hear and possibly amend each department budget request line item by line item. That's what I would like the motion to read.
And you want that to be prior to the hearing? So then the way to do that, in my opinion, is to add that language after what's already there in front of you on page 54 for B as in boy.
Mhm. Okay, so as we call the roll, if you say yes, you want to make the changes that Alder Fisher has presented. If you say no, you want to leave B as it's written.
Yeah, Jack, seconds.
Yeah. So please call the roll.
Anderson,
Aye.
Appenfelt,
Aye.
Burnett,
Aye.
Faree,
No.
Fisher,
Just so I make sure I know what I'm voting on here, I am voting for my amendment, so I would vote yes.
Correct.
Correct.
Hiley,
No.
Keel,
No.
Mark,
No.
Olson,
No.
Perkins, Wild,
Aye.
Yuds,
Aye.
Zop.
No.
7-6, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to any other changes? Oh, did you have another one, Mick, or is that already? Those two are covered. Any other changes anybody wanted to make in the language?
So, not to beat a dead horse, but section 2-4, appointing officials. I'm wondering if we should, I'd make a motion to add, let's see, the city council shall approve or delegate the authority to approve the hiring or termination thereon. So my point being that there might be situations in the future where we don't, for whatever reason, a future council may not want, for efficiency or for whatever, may not want or may want to speed things up and just trust the city administrator to make that hire. So it's a way not to tie the hands of a future council on how they want to process that hiring. So.
Alder Anderson?
I believe we already voted on this section earlier.
So
Number 2 is the argument was made that we do not want the city administrator to have that. If someone in the now 10 years down the line, if they want to do that, they can come in and amend it at that point. You know, we already had this discussion.
I recall that we had follow-up meetings and learned other information that came after that point, and I felt it was pertinent to bring it back.
No, you felt that it didn't go the way you wanted and you want to bring it back up again.
Okay, no debate.
It's in the very beginning
It's,
of the ordinance.
yeah.
What, can we clarify? Is it possible to go backwards? Is this open for a motion or not?
We're not really following a process here that's consistent with the Robert's Rules of Order. What was decided by the council is that we were going to go through as many meetings as necessary to get everybody heard. And so I don't think I think if there's a motion, there's a motion. Yes. If there's a motion, there's a motion, because I don't know that that was anything that was specifically part of the previous motion that was defeated. Or it's at least different enough that if you wanted to make a motion and there's a second, we could hold a vote. Can you clarify? Cause I was writing down the last one.
Right, so it would be section 2-4, it's in the blue. So it would be this city council shall approve or delegate the authority to hire or terminate the following. Amendment would add.
That's on page 50 for everyone who's looking at their packet.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second to the motion? Is there a second to the motion? Hearing no second, the motion fails. Is there any other adjustments that you care to make in the rest of the ordinance? To accept it the way it is.
Ken's got something to.
Ken?
I'll say, this is technically a second reading. Do we need a motion to approve it at this point?
That's what you were asking.
That's my question.
Yep.
Yes, we do.
All right, so I'll make a motion to approve it with the
changes.
amendments that have been made.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve ordinance number 6 as it's been amended. Mr. Burnett?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Is there any other discussion on ordinance number 6? Everybody's tired by now. So please call the roll.
Anderson,
No.
Appenfelt,
Aye.
Burnett,
Aye.
Barry,
Aye.
Fisher,
No.
Hiley,
No.
Keel,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Olson,
No.
Perkins,
Aye.
Wild,
Abstain.
Yads,
No.
Zap,
Yes.
I
Seven
have
to
it.
5. So the motion,
Well,
yeah.
so a portion of this was a charter ordinance.
Oh, we need a different percentage of votes.
I'm just checking to make sure before I speak out of turn. What was the vote?
7 to 5.
7-5 and one
And one
abstention.
abstention.
So the portions of the ordinance that weren't a charter ordinance have been approved. The portions that change a charter ordinance were not approved. And it is impossible to reconcile those two. So I'm gonna have to give some thought as to what we do now. Because we can't pull the sections out that weren't charter. We've replaced charter. We're just gonna have to get back to you as to what we do next.
Yes,
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I think that would be a good idea. Is there a second to that motion? Alder Wild. Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. In favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned.